In this video, we're going to be working with data tables. A data table is an Excel table that displays the results from several what-if analysis. The table consists of input cells and result cells. The input cells are the cells whose values will be changed in a what-if analysis. The result cells are cells whose values are impacted by the changing input values. In Excel, you can use a one-variable data table or a two-variable data table. In a one-variable data table, you will specify one input cell and any number of result cells. The range of possible values for the input cell is entered in the first row or column of the data table, and the corresponding result values appear in the rows or columns. One-variable data tables are particularly useful in business to explore how changing a single input value can impact several financial results. We're going to start with the one variable. Okay, so in the one variable table, we have it set up on the spreadsheet, and the very first thing that we have to do is we have to enter a formula to reference. And so we're going to do that by putting in the corner here, we're going to click into E5, and we're going to put equal, and we can either type in or click on C5 because our input reference will be units sold. Hit enter, and it is referencing the units sold. Then we have to have total sales, total expenses, and gross profit. So again, we're going to put in the cells we want to reference. So in F5, I'm putting equal, and it's C20. So again, I could either click on it or type it in. I'm going to go to G5 equals, and now I'm going to C21, and then H, I'm going to do equals, and I'm going to do C22. Alright, that gives us our row inputs, and we had our column, which are the units sold. Next thing that we're going to do is we select the table, we go to Data, What If Analysis, and select Data Table. This is a one variable data table, so we only put in one variable. The other one will not have anything in it. And how do we know which one we want? Well, the row input is being referenced. That we don't want to be a variable to change. We want the units sold to change with these variables so that we can see how the combination together it impacts making the changing up the units sold. So we know that the variable then is going to be our column. So we don't put anything in the row. We go to column, and in the column we're going to put the cell to reference, which is C5. So I'm going to click on the units sold C5, and I'm going to click OK. And then Excel now does the what if analysis, and I'm able to look at this and be able to see how total sales would be impacted by the different amounts of units sold listed in the column. Now we're going to do what's called a two-variable data table. Okay, so we're going to do a two-variable. A two-variable data table lets you view the relationship between two input cells, such as price and units sold. Unlike a one-variable data table, a two-variable data table can display only a single result value, such as net income. So, in this table right below the one-variable one, we're going to do the two. Okay, we already have our reference cell put in there for us. We have the dollar amounts in our row, and we have the units sold in our column again. So we're going to run our two-variable data table by selecting the data table, going to Data, doing What If Analysis, Data Table again, but this time we're doing a two-variable. And because we're doing a two-variable, that means we need to put in the two variables, and we need to see which ones they are. So we know which one to choose by looking at what we're trying to analyze. The row is going to be the dollar amounts. So that's actually C6, the price per unit. So I'm going to click in C6. The column again is the units sold, so I'm clicking in C5. I'm going to run the data table by clicking OK, and I now have all the amounts put in there for me. As you can see at this point, it's very easy for me to go across and see at what point we have a break-even point depending on the price versus the units sold. So if you look across, you'll see at $30 and selling 20,000 units, we break even between $28.50 and $30. At $30, we're actually making $19,000 in profit. At $28.50, we're in the negative $11,000. So we break even between those two amounts. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we can also do what's called custom formatting. And this helps us be able to read the data table better. Okay, it's not required, but it's a nice thing to do as far as helping you do the analysis because it lets you see what something is very easily. So I'm going to go up here, and where E14 is, there is the dollar amount here, which is C22, and it's actually gross profit. So that I wouldn't have to keep looking over here to see what it is, I can do that custom formatting by selecting the cell, doing a right click, format cell, make sure I'm going down to custom, and then in the box you type in whatever you want your custom name to be. So in our case, we want it to be units sold / price. So I have to put quote marks because that tells it that it's a literal string of words. Okay, and that's exactly what it needs to put in for that formatting. So I've got the quote, and I'm going to put in units sold. Okay, and you need to put it in exactly like what it's showing you in the instruction. So units sold / price, and then another double quote. Once you've done that, click OK, and you'll notice it changes it so that we see the words. But again, if you look in the formula, it's still referencing C22. So if C22 changes, the amount here that's used in the data table would change. But we know by looking at it that that's the units sold / price for the column and rows. Next, we're going to look at how to create a scatter chart with straight lines. All right, so we're going to go now to the wall units worksheet. On this one, we're now going to select E4 through G14. Okay, so E4 through G14. Okay, and we're going to look at charting a break-even analysis. So we're going to go to Insert, and I'm bringing up all charts. I'm going to do the scatter chart. Put my mouse over it. I can read the different kinds. I want the scatter chart with straight lines. I'm going to click OK. I now have the scatter chart I need. Next, I'm going to take and move that scatter chart down so that way I can actually put it into the cells right underneath it. All right, so I'm going to move that down by selecting it, and I'm going to put it in. When it says in, make sure it's in cell E15 and H28. So this one, I got to make sure it's in H28. All right, it tells you to do a few other things like remove the chart title, and these are all things that you have done before. Add a vertical axis. So you can add a vertical axis, change the name of the vertical axis to sales and expenses. Okay, so you'll add the names to each one of these axes. And then the other thing that you're going to do is you're going to change the minimum bounds and the maximum bounds. And so you do that by, you can select the one that you're wanting to change the bounds on. Make sure to catch it so that you have it selected. And then you can format the axis. That's going to give you all your options. You'll see over here the minimum, the maximum. The minimum being 300,000. So I'm going to put that in here. And once I make sure I have the right amount of zeros here. And then I'm going to go through 550,000. Okay. All right. And so it changes my minimum and maximum bounds that way. And then also to change the number. So if you go down, scroll down a little, you'll see I can change it to currency and then go to 0 decimal places. Okay, so that's 0 decimal places that way. Alright, once you're finished with what you want to use that for, you can change over. Okay, you also need to do the horizontal axis. You need to change the minimum and the maximum bounds on that one as well. And then you also want to change the color options to color 14.